the television was a new technology for me, and but so it being new, I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. UHF was a technically handicapped system against VHF television, and that's one reason I was able to get the station relatively cheaply. It was a lot of money for me at the time. It was everything that I had, but then that was before the satellite. Well, we acquired WTCG, the television station in Atlanta, UHF, independent station, in 1970. Yeah, I was trying to reach cable systems in the surrounding area outside of where the UHF signal would go, could be rebroadcast and picked up with a powerful antenna. By then I had the rights to the Braves and Atlanta Hawks, and people that wanted to see sports would hopefully get cable TV and be able to watch my station, and my advertising revenues would grow as well, which was true. It happened. The satellite, I could cover the whole country with one transmitter. Pretty soon I figured you could cover the whole world. It took time, and I didn't have any money during that time, or had almost none. So the hard thing was to keep from going broke before all this technology developed. I had to get a satellite send station in Atlanta to get to the satellite, and they only had send stations in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles. And obviously I was in Atlanta, and I had to have a satellite station there, and since they weren't going to build one, at least at that time, because there wasn't enough business to justify it, I talked them into building one and putting it in Atlanta, and I had to, in order to do that, I had to buy it. I started thinking about satellite television around 1975. We were the Google of our time, you know, one step ahead of the internet revolution, which came after the satellite revolution. But I led the satellite revolution, and I've done some study, and I can't think of one single person, not even Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell, that came up with more than one revolution. One revolution in one lifetime. That's about it. Alexander the Great only conquered the world once. And when I sat down with my executives and said, well, we're going to go to Europe first, we were in one hotel in London. And then we're going to go to Japan. We had like one hotel in Tokyo. That's not very much coverage for, you know, a whole country and a whole world. And then I said, and we're going to go to Africa too. He said, but they don't even have TVs in Africa. What are you going to, what are you going to, I said, the leaders of the countries will have to have TVs. They'll have to be able to watch CNN. And in the capital cities, they will put up a satellite dish on the seat of government so that the people in government will be able to see it. And I said, and I'll start with that and build our coverage. And it worked exactly that way. Every leader in the world had CNN. Fidel Castro told me on the night that Sadat was murdered, he went in his office, because that's where his TV was, and spent the whole night watching CNN. It succeeded beyond my expectations, but not much, because I had very high expectations.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause for Mr. Tino Mantella, TAG President and CEO, and our 2013 inductee of the Technology Hall of Fame of Georgia, Mr. Ted Turner.
So Ted, congratulations. I'm sure this isn't the first award that you've ever received, but on behalf of the Atlanta technology community, we want to congratulate you and thank you for everything you've done. I was listening to Tom up here, and then also I got to see the video of that you did with Tom Brokaw. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it was a while back, I guess. But it struck me, you know, we're all kind of these mere mortals that in life we strive maybe to do one great thing that we could get recognized. When Tom was up here, when you think about it, you're an accomplished sailor, you're an entrepreneur, you did a lot with straightening out the news and making it, you know, sending a new direction, entertainment, sports, the environment, saving the buffalo, just a wide range of things. And Tom Brokaw said, one of the most accomplished people in the world today. So I have a sense, though, that one of your most important things, and I started to read, your daughter actually gave me the Last Stand, and you say in there, how we treat the earth is the biggest expression of our success as a society. And of course, you own over 2 million acres, second largest landowner in the United States. And you're very much involved with renewable energy. And so how are we doing as a society in respect to saving the planet?
We could do better. I'm very concerned, but I'm also optimistic. I mean, what else can you be? You've got to be an optimist. And but I think we are making a lot of mistakes, but then, you know, we're doing a lot of different things too, and we're also doing a lot of things that that we can be proud of.
You have, you know, things like, there's still a lot of people that don't believe in the global warming piece. And what would you say about that?
Well, I've been outside today, and we had global cooling. It's freezing. This is spring, for Christ's sake. So it is a confusing and complicated issue, but I think the scientific evidence is overwhelming that we do have climate change as a problem. In some instances it's cold, and others it's hot. Clearly, we need to move away from fossil fuels. I mean, fossil fuels got us to the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago, and before that all we had was fire. And we need to phase it out, and as quickly as possible, and replace it with, thank God, we have at our fingertips renewable sources of power, energy, and electricity that really are already competitive in many instances from a price standpoint. There's no reason not to go full out. And also, if we do switch over on a massive scale to renewable energy, it'll be good for business, and it'll be good for the Georgia Technology Association.
That's right. That's right. What are your thoughts about such things as fracking? Is that something that makes fracking, you know, getting the natural gas or Keystone Pipeline? You have thoughts about that, or?
Yeah, I think from what I've read, that's just more fossil fuel. I think we need to move away from fossil fuel because of the emissions problem.
So you're a huge proponent of renewable energy. I know you've done some things with Boone Pickens, and you're also doing some things with Southern Company in respect to solar. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are very happy partners with the Southern Company in their solar panel, industrial strength, the large solar panels, and switching over I think they realize, as we do, that that's where the future is.
10 years ago, it was my first meeting at TAG, the summit, and you spoke there. And we appreciated you being there because we were trying to draw a big crowd, frankly, and you were the person behind it to help us bring in the people to really reinvent the Technology Association in Georgia. But I remember you talked a lot about nuclear proliferation and even talked about the, somebody pushes the button at the wrong time. And you have the tensions now in Ukraine. You have North Korea, Iran, terrorist threats. So is the world safer than it was 10 years ago?
I don't think so. I think it's more dangerous. And I hated to see us come to loggerheads with Russia over the Ukraine. We did a lot of work with the Goodwill Games to try and bring the two superpowers together, mainly because it's the right thing to do, but also they have thousands of nuclear warheads on hair trigger alert, as we do. And if we've got to be very careful and respectful of each other because of the power that we both have to destroy the world. And I don't want to see that happen. I like it here. I like it here, right where I am. Home sweet home in Georgia.
There you go. Yeah. I think the Goodwill game stopped in 1998. I know you were disappointed in that. It'd be a great time to bring them back.
After merging with Time Warner. Time Warner canceled them. I wouldn't have moved the Braves to Cobb County as much as I love it out here.
Switching gears, you were certainly the pioneer in 24/7 news. And as you think about that now, there's a lot of stations that have 24/7 news. Do you think that's diluted the news and caused stations to cover things that are less newsworthy?
No, most of them are filling in areas in local languages. Yeah. When we started CNN, it was 14 years before Fox News got started. They were the second 24-hour news network. We had 14 years of exclusivity, and now there are over 100 news channels in the world.
In your book, again, you studied Andrew Carnegie, and you said who warned against hoarding wealth. He said, and I quote the book, but I think this is something that you've said, as I grow older, I pay less attention to what men say and just watch what they do. And of course, you've given over $1 billion, United Nations and many other groups started Captain Planet. But I also understand you've encouraged others like Warren Buffett and others to do what you've did to emulate your path in that. So a couple of questions there, for the audience. Why is giving so important? How's the impact been in respect to what you've done?
Well, if you really study it carefully, there's really not anything better that you can do with a large amount of money, if you have a large amount, than give it to those less fortunate than yourself.
And others have followed your lead, it looks like, over the years.
Philanthropy's always been there. I didn't invent that.
Right. You egged it on, though. You helped it out a great deal, over $1 billion.
Several thousand years ago, somebody said it is more blessed to give than to receive, and all I was doing was following instructions.
It seemed like your #1 charity is United Nations Foundation. How is that operating today? How do you feel about that?
Going great. Going great. One of the jobs that the United Nations has taken on is trying to be involved with eliminating poverty in the world. And in the last 20 years, the rate of poverty is cut in half of what it was before. That's a huge, huge success that we can all be proud of. It mainly occurred in China. The per capita income in China has basically doubled in the last 20 years. In India, even in Africa now, they're billionaires in Africa. we've never been so rich as we are at the current time, and technology has been one of the things that has propelled us that way. I'm really proud of that, and we're working at the United Nations to try and get everybody energy, electricity for everyone. I think close to half the people don't have electricity in their homes. Their kids can't do their homework. You know, there's no excuse for that. Solar panels, if we put them on every little hut in the world out in the jungle, we could bring electricity to everybody in a short period of time, and it'd be great for business.
One of the things that struck me in interviews that you've had is you've talked about how you've made friends all over the world, and you've done business all over the world. I think you're probably one of the few that has ever done business with North Korea at a point in time. And you've talked about, you know, friendships that you've made in different countries. And I like the point that you made about, you know, who's dumb enough to bomb countries that you're actually trying to do business with. So, I mean, what's your experience in terms of just having relationships?
Yeah, it's really kind of dumb to bomb your customers.
Right.
Or even threaten to bomb them.
Right.
I think it's time to put the use of force behind us and do like the United Nations does with working on the cooperation and working together. We'll get a lot further, better for business. And what's good for business is good for Georgia.
It's good for Georgia. There's a theme coming along here if people haven't caught it. So in order to get pumped up for this interview, I went to Ted Montana Grill over the weekend and had a buffalo burger. So it was great. It's not the first time. My wife and I go there all the time, actually. And in the other room before you came out here, we talked about now you own 55,000 buffalo. And it's interesting going from CNN and the things you've done into a restaurant chain. How did that all take place?
Well, when I merged with Time Warner, I didn't, like anybody that merges their small company into a larger one, I didn't think I'd get canned, but I did. And I was 65, and I felt like I still wanted to keep working. So I wanted to get into business another business that was the ease of entry, and restaurant business is the easiest business in the world to enter. It's one of the hardest to be successful at. And for 10 years, we lost money every year. And then we finally turned the corner last year and had a small profit and a more decent one the year just passed. And we're gonna make a killing now.
That's good. So,
but it was important to me because anybody can do it in satellite television, and but to be successful in the restaurant business is really hard.
now, in the other room, you were talking about you started with one buffalo. I'm sure it was probably 2 buffalo somewhere along the line, but
I started with 3.
3 buffalo. Okay, so
1 male and 2 females.
Okay, I wasn't going to go there, but thank you very much.
And the next year we had 2 calves, and we had 5. I said, "Wow, 40% in 1 year. This is if we can ever get any money from them." But basically, I did it because I really liked bison, and they were close to extinction. And when I got into selling bison commercially, there were only 30,000 bison in the world. Now there's close to 600,000, 20 times as many, and it's due to that effort.
I didn't know about the history of the prairie dog and what you're doing in that area.
There's a lot you don't know.
I'm sure.
Did you read Call Me Ted?
No.
Well, if you read that, you'll learn a lot.
Okay. Next year we'll have you back, and I'll finish that book as well. So. we have a lot of entrepreneurs out here. 10 of them presented on stage today. Some of them are a little younger than we are. So if you were to start out again, 25 years of age, would you see the same opportunities in terms of building your business? I mean, how would you have approached it? I know you said would you be getting into energy,
I
probably.
think there's more opportunity today because technology has spread so much. And look, see, I was there with the cable and satellite revolution, and that's been overtaken now by the internet revolution. And so there's really more opportunities. There's more like Facebook and the other current high-tech companies. So many of billionaires have been created. It's really not even cool to have $1 billion anymore.
I don't know. I beg to differ with you on that, but
well, I've done it, so I know. The best thing you can give with your money is to give it to those less fortunate and enjoy them smiling because they've got the things they really need that they didn't have before.
So you mentioned in the video, and I knew you emulated Alexander the Great at some point. And we know he conquered the world 356 BC and never defeated in battle. And also cultural advancements. He or the one you've emulated most, or are there other people that you would look at in terms of say your heroes or your mentors or people in history that you felt have given you guidance?
In history, I emulated when I was a young man and fresh out of the military and military school. I did. Alexander the Great and Horatio Nelson were my heroes. Horatio Nelson, because he was the best admiral that the world ever saw, I thought. And Alexander the Great, because he was the best general. And over the years, and I had on my desk a little bronze bust of Alexander the Great and one of Horatio Nelson, and I took them down and replaced them with a bust of Martin Luther King and Gandhi. And I changed over. I said the military is not the solution to our problems now. And we look at what happened in World War II after we bombed Hiroshima and Hiroshima. Most people didn't want to see that ever happen again, where people kill hundreds of thousands of people with one bomb. It's not cool. And there's no reason why we should still be doing it, but it's hard for us to get away from it because we have such an entrenched military-industrial complex, which President Eisenhower warned us against, but we haven't accepted that warning in the way we should. We should be acting like civilized human beings, educated, civilized human beings, not a bunch of savages. Savages with nuclear weapons. That's the worst combination.
I think for most of us, we aspire to evolve over our lifetime, and it seems like for you, well, let me ask the question this way. When you were young, did you have thoughts, let's say when you were involved with CNN and building that business in terms of, saving the planet, stopping nuclear disarmament, or did that sort of grow as you grew?
No, I thought ahead. But I kept thinking, though. I didn't stop. And that's how I got in the restaurant business. It ain't CNN. But I used to feed people's need for knowledge. Now I feed them just food for hunger.
Our last speaker talked about the importance of success, but he also talked about accepting failure, and that most people that are great leaders have failed along the line and then kind of pulled themselves up with their bootstraps and made something of themselves or continue to strive. So let me ask you a question. What is the biggest mistake you've made in business?
Merging with AOL.
I thought you might say that.
That cost me 95% of my wealth.
So if you had to do it over again, you would have got it.
Hell, I would have voted against it. But I don't think I could have carried the day because it was just the internet was so hot at that time that I don't think I could have stopped it.
And you sort of segue into the next question is, what technology innovation in the last 10 years has been the biggest positive impact on the world? Would you say the internet or?
For me, I think the most important thing is the new clean sources of renewable energy, solar, wind, geothermal, and that's what we need to do. That's our #1 priority right now, is to move away from fossil fuels to modern, clean, renewable energy. That's our biggest challenge.
Final question. CNN revolutionized the cable industry, first news network, first 24-hour network, original satellite distributed network. Obviously, it was a disruptive technology at the time. So now there's new disruptions coming into place, like things like internet streaming and Netflix, and people are. Do you see that, like in 5 or 10 years, what's going to happen to the traditional television industry?
I don't really know. And, you know, if we don't get the energy situation taken care of, and we don't rid the world of nuclear weapons while we have the chance to do so, it won't make much difference, because those are not survival issues. Those are just, it doesn't really matter whether you get your television over the air or through a satellite. And not to me.
Right. I know there's countries meeting now talking about nuclear disarmament, but they've been talking about that for a long time. What's the switch that needs to...
Action speaks louder than words.
Right.
We need to go ahead and do it. And we need to change over the energy plan. And we need to do a better job of preserving the environment. And we've got to voluntarily restrain our population growth. When I was born, there were 2 billion people on the earth in 1938, and now there's 7.3 or so. That's unsustainable. It's in the lifetime of one man, the population has tripled. It hadn't tripled of other things, and the earth isn't 1 square foot bigger than it was 50 years ago. So we have to change a lot of the things that the way we're doing. But we have the educational systems, we have the communication systems, we can dispense the information on our news networks all over the world. That we've got better education than ever before. We have all the tools that we need to survive and prosper if we just use them. And that's with my aging years, that's what I'm trying to do, is to go around and persuade people, like in this group today. Y'all can do a lot of good to do the best you can to switch over to the modern new way of doing things.
So the message, the take-home message is, let's help Ted achieve his dreams. Ted, just thank you on behalf of TAG and your great accomplishments over your lifetime, and hopefully you'll come back again in 10 years. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I get one photo here?